Hello guys, Dominic here, and I'm going to answer your questions. So there's some works going on outside, hopefully they won't disturb us. When Storm Babette came along, we got flooded, as did various other people in the community. This house has been hit before by floods, but we will be getting some recompense for that. So also my webcam that I used to use isn't functioning anymore for some reason, just blank, nothing seems to be happening. So I'm using this kind of backup laptop. Just have to use the camera on this laptop really. I'm not sure if I'll be able to edit this video much, but I'll see. That stuff there is, my brother's nice speaker over there and his computer there. He's currently at a graphic design college. He's doing a uni, he's doing a degree in graphic design, and he also makes music, which is awesome. And I'm just back from my community work, where I help out local community, clearing things and all that. So with that, why don't we get into this little video. I was also hoping I might find that fragrance, but I never did, which is unbelievable. It's never happened before. I buy a new fragrance and pretty much lose it within a few days and don't find it. Whether one of my friends put it in their bag, I don't know, by accident or something. I haven't asked anyone, but I don't know. And I don't think that's too likely either. So why don't we kick off with some of these questions that we got going on. And I think one of the first ones that came through was from Lucille, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it. Anyway, says, thanks for doing it this way because, answering the questions. I'd like to know, more about the fantasy series you've written. What fantasy writing has most inspired your creativity? And what recommendations have you for fiction generally? Thanks. Nice, great question. I was never really a big reader, to be honest. I really wasn't. Although I did get into writing, that's true. The reason I guess I started that story, I used to tell stories a lot to my siblings. Some of them would be ridiculous, and I'm literally just telling stories and sometimes make them up as I go along. Sometimes I would write things out as well, but then I decided to have a crack at a story again, some time ago now, for my niece, who really loves fairies. So, I thought, I'd give a crack at this, but not like a kind of Disney fairies. Like I thought maybe I'll try something a bit more realistic. So I went for this story that I did, and it's still centered on fairies, okay, I produced this anyway. Okay, this is the first little printout that I did, and actually sold a copy of it as well, this was the first version, and it's only book one as well. It's going to be like a series, like a kind of, for kids and young adults. But then I started to really enjoy it and get absorbed in it, because that's kind of what happens if you put yourself into a novel. And it's then I decided I could do a slightly more advanced version of the book. So that's what I'm currently working on, and this one isn't available anymore. Although I may still give it to kind of some friends and family maybe. Sorry about that. So it's really about this. A fairy in my series is a superior being from a higher world, but they still kind of resemble us. Then the Saltors are the kind of male versions. I didn't want it to be too kind of generic elves. So, you've got one fairy that was summoned by witchcraft when she was in her infant years, and now she's on Earth. But our world has a corrupting influence. So despite attempts to reclaim her to her homeworld, she goes her own way, and she gets into, she decides she can do kind of cool things. She can get away with crime, so she gets into petty crime, and then she's kind of into that secretly, and ultimately, she becomes a gang leader, so it's a fairy princess turned gang leader kind of thing, And she's from a higher world, and then it goes into all these places in the higher world. And my friend Owen actually did a great masterful job of doing a whole map based on this higher world. Okay, that's Alpherbrook is the capital, and Garland Wood and Maracynthia Vale and Hermit Mountain, and we're going to get this framed, and that's going to be great. So then I have a blog to go with that and all the rest of it. And one day I would like to hopefully approach publishers if I get a nice version of that book. And so the fairies are constantly reaching out to the main character, Stephanie Bell, okay? And her name is actually Carletta, but her real fairy name is Stephanie Gold Maracynthia Bell. But on Earth, she was left in this playgroup owned by this couple who adopt her and, raise her as a normal human, but she kind of has this awareness she's actually a fairy. And then you've got Raymond, who came into possession of the records of the dealings and the history of fairy contact with humanity from the higher world to humanity. And there's all these records of the past incidents and dealings with men and the high world species, and that's all gathered into what's called the Higher World Contact Archives. And so that's Raymond Ashford, but he makes money by going around dressed kind of in old kind of robes and things, and he stops at places and he gives speeches about the errands of benevolence, that the fairies used to come on errands of benevolence, and they had this thing called condensed form where they could become a bit smaller so as not to intimidate us. And so he's going around with, I won't tell you the whole story, don't worry, but it's fun anyway. So he has what's called these records in his possession, and are called the Higher World Contact Archives, okay? And so he's the one that's in contact with this higher world because he lives with simplicity and he rejects technology. But this is happening in the modern age, in the digital age, and nobody really believes in the fairies anymore because they've stopped coming since a long time ago, and it became legendary and myth and things. But he has these old documents, and there's a huge amount of them, and he rents out a place under the floor of the library in Guildhall. So he's kind of they built a trapdoor for dramatic effect, and he gets money because people. He goes around in an old horse and cart and things, and he keeps a simple life. So he kind of has a message against materialism, and he tells about fairy benevolence, so people come for the fairy tales and they give them money because they're riveting tales, but they're actually documented accounts taken from the HWC archives. Okay, and then they try to send another. They have to train another fairy to send her down to try and reclaim her to her homeworld, but she's kind of a bit shut off, so she doesn't like that, and so it's a big struggle to get her back. When they do it by force, by an injection, then her life essence goes back temporarily. She doesn't like it there. They're pampering her, trying to turn her into a princess, but she's completely changed by then, so it's very difficult, and all the rest of that. And so I'm sure you've heard more than you need to about all of that. I don't know really how you could say I was inspired by that. I kind of thought an adult's version of a fairy tale, and then something about fall and redemption might be kind of cool, like, they're trying to bring someone back who's actually belongs to a higher world. I kind of thought that was kind of cool. So, but Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and... these are the kind of fairy tales that I would subscribe to mostly. Shall we move on? I see one at the top here. Joe says, which of your side hustles has been most successful? Not just financially, but you have felt improved your quality of life. And is it hard to juggle as many as you have been doing? Great question, yeah. The main one that I went for was affiliate marketing, which means that if you promote something online, you have a special link called an affiliate link, and when someone clicks on your affiliate link, if they make a purchase, then you get a commission, or I get a commission. If you're selling digital products and you have traffic to your business, whether it's a YouTube channel or a blog, then you have the potential to make a lot of money if people are buying what you recommend, and if you're good and eloquent on your blog about, comparing one product with another and giving them what they want, it can be a good source of revenue, especially, as I said, if it's digital products, because some of them, quite a lot of digital products come with recurring subscriptions, a bit like Netflix, for example, and so every month you would get a commission coming in from that. The problem really though was the competition and trying to get that traffic organically coming in. Now you can pay for traffic, but then that's kind of like paying money to make money, and you don't always end up in profit. Sometimes you lose money. So the idea was to make this blog and draw organic traffic to it. The niche, however, didn't give me a sense of, it wasn't that great. It was telling people how to make money, and don't do it the scammy way, do something that you're passionate about. But the traffic was very difficult to get really, because there's a lot of competition out there. And if you did something a bit more, you have to refine your niche. Like it's now very hard to get on the first page of Google where all the traffic is. Although it does depend on the niche that you choose. I mean, they have to be narrowed down. You can't just have the dog niche. It has to be more narrowed down than that. One person even focused on African birds, and that was a niche, not just African animals or just animals, So yeah, that's what I was having a bash at, and I did have some success with that. That's the most thing I had some success with. And that's really the only other side hustle I was doing, that. And then the writing is kind of the new thing, which I feel is more my thing, is storytelling and all of that. The other blog I did was there was another, I think there's like this other religious blog as well. And then there was, what was the other one? Now I'm doing this fantasy one as well. Unfortunately they just didn't really take off. None of them really did, to be honest. But I still think writing is kind of my new niche, really. I tried my hand at some other genres as well. For example, there was I did bash at a romance one called Save Me From My Office Crush, with the characters of Robin and Gracie Damachi, and but that was a couple of chapters, and I didn't continue that yet. But people are saying that I sent it to, this is gripping, and I want to see the rest of it. It wasn't quite my thing, but and then there was one I did about a guy on a welding plant, and there's another guy that comes in and he's all kind of doing a really good job, but he doesn't really talk, and he wants to figure out what this guy is about, and and there's something kind of big secret about this fellow, in the welding plant in Manchester, and that was based on kind of the audience that my other brother, who is a welder, he likes that kind of story, and so I kind of picked someone that I think would like to listen to it, and then I kind of do it kind of for them, but then other people obviously can enjoy the story. And so right now I don't have any successful side hustles, but I guess to answer your question, the one that would give me most quality of life is probably something along the lines of writing, and if I could make that lucrative, that would be the best, I'd say. Okay, moving on. Felicity asks, have you ever experienced amusing or awkward responses to the fragrances you've worn? Additionally, have you encountered any humorous or embarrassing reactions to scents worn by others? I don't know. I think I was silly enough to wear this Jo Malone Orange Blossom, and I think I was told that was that's a bit bordering on being too feminine, which was fair enough, it was really, but it was a lovely smell though. And other than that, I don't know. Usually the clones I've worn are pretty good, and people aren't going to think, oh, that's weird. And then any reactions to scents worn by others? I don't think so. I mean, because usually when people put a scent on, it's they usually know what they're doing. I haven't really seen guys wearing women's stuff or women wearing guys' stuff, or So I would say, I haven't really experienced, unfortunately, there's nothing kind of really fun to go into there. One time though, my brother came in and I thought, wow, you smell good. Is that a cologne? And then I realized, oh my God, it's just Lynx Africa. It was just a good deodorant. Ah, silly boy, that's not a perfume, but it just kind of hit me. It's like, wait, what's he wearing? And my fragrance mind was like, what, is he onto the fragrances? And it was just a blast of Lynx Africa, deodorant. So yeah, that's kind of all I guess I have to say on that one. Okay, and we got this fella who says, outside of fragrance, what's the worst smell you've experienced? Are there any weird smells you really like? Okay, there was a rotting fish that was in the bin for a good while, and that rotten fish was terrible smell, absolutely terrible. But I think even worse than that probably was, well, I was a kid at the time. This carton of orange had been kind of buried, just kind of somehow we kind of dug it out of the garden somehow, clearing up, and there was kind of there's orange still in it. And being a silly boy, I popped it open and put my nose in it. Oh my God! Rotten orange juice, my friends, the worst ever. It's like acid dissolving. I know there's a drug called acid. I don't do any of that, okay, but it was like real, dissolving acid in your. Oh, I was just, and the stench, I think it was more just that. It like physically hurt my nose. So that was probably the worst thing that ever went up my nose. Well, I suppose dog poop is also bad, but that was awful, right? Are there any weird smells you really like? I don't mind the smell of petrol. I don't know if that counts as weird, but other people sometimes say that petrol doesn't smell too bad either. I also do like some tobacco smells. Some people hate the smell of tobacco, but a bit of tobacco, I kind of like a bit of tobacco, to be honest. Heck, they have some tobacco notes and fragrances, right? But other than that, I wouldn't say there's anything weird that I really think is good. Of course, it does also get a bit subjective, but we all know certain smells are bad, like, let's face it. There's some cheeses that smell like feet kind of thing, and oh God, And, there's just some things that we know, you can't say that's a good smell, right? Probably that's all I have to say on that one. And then he says, this fellow Liam says, I hope it's okay to ask something a bit different, but I'm really interested in your response. Let's say you came home and catch a whiff of a funny smell. How would you react? I'd probably say, has somebody left something out or in the oven? It probably wouldn't be a bad smell, right? And then, has someone left food out? I'd probably think, has somebody left some food out and it's gone funny? Or if it's just an odd smell, I start to think, okay, well, could it be a dog? Could it be this? Could it be that? And then, would you need to find out, or would you just try to cover it up? Well, I would investigate the smell. I want to know what it is, and if it's annoying me, I want it out of there, and I will actually go to the lengths to make it go. There was one terrible smell that was lingering for ages, kind of a burnt, but nasty burnt, kind of with flavour, kind of horrible flavour burnt as well. And that was lingering around, and I actually looked up on the internet and put little pots of vinegar out around the place, and weirdly enough, that did the trick, dispelled that smell that was in the air. Like, you could spray this air freshener and it wasn't really working. The smell was just there. It would hit you when you come in as well. That's enough. I'm doing something about that. So I put these little pots of vinegar around the area, and I left little notes, leave this is because that burnt smell is still in the air. Please just leave these little vinegar things. And it did the trick, weirdly enough. You can't find it and the smell gets worse. How would you go about locating the source? How much would it annoy you? Yeah. Well, you can't find it and it gets worse, and then how would you go about locating the source? I'd go into all the rooms, ask people, I'd try and figure out what it was. Oh yeah, I'd be onto it. I'd be, I'd have to find out what it was. Talk to people, go into the rooms, rummage around. It's got to be somewhere. There's certain things that just obviously isn't, and there's some things that it could be. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it would definitely annoy me because I can't relax if there's some annoying smell in the air. I'd have to go somewhere else. I'd literally go into town and do my work there or something if there was a smell hanging around. And I'd say to people, can you try and eliminate that smell, please? Any good stories about having to sniff around for the source of a strange smell? Cheers. Yeah, well, the one where I couldn't locate the fish. I mean, but it was at the bottom of the bin, and we looked in there. Is it from the bin, or is it kind of around? Is it in a pot somewhere? Is it under here? And it was just in the bin. But and then yeah, I don't know, that one there with the funny burnt smell. I don't think the actual burnt food was around, so I was trying to figure out, if the smell is still here but the food isn't there, then where's this really coming from? But it's because the food was already checked out, but that smell is still hanging around the place. Yeah, that's good fun. Yeah, would you have to around the source? Yeah, so I would have to find it, or else I would leave the house. That's the answer to that one, I think. Okay, and we have another one here. Right, I'm just having a look, see what else we've got here. Okay. Give me a moment, because there was a few here, I think. Possibly not. Did I get... there's one called Jane, I think she had a question. Might be this one right here. Oh yeah, okay. I'd like to know if there are any fragrances or fragrance notes which negatively affect you, like make you sneeze or tickle your nose, and do you have any good recommendations for books, films, and music? Thanks. Well, it's hard to put my finger on it, but there is something a bit synthetic and tacky, almost kind of like an aluminium or something, that kind of a smell that I sometimes noticed I did get off that Paco Rabanne Invictus. But then it goes away and then you get used to it. So it's kind of like that first sniff sometimes is that, it's hard to put my finger on what it is there, what that note is. It doesn't seem to be a very natural one, something a bit synthetic. It's almost like a kind of slightly metallic and just not that tiny bit of repugnance to it, but it doesn't it wouldn't kind of make me sneeze, I don't think. Also, I don't get hay fever, thank God, but when the summer comes around, you always get people sneezing because of the pollen in the flowers and everything. I don't get that, thank God. Yeah, to be honest, I love fragrances and I generally don't have trouble with them. There's this girl that I was going with for a bit, and she gets headaches with certain fragrances. And it'll actually go to her head and it'll hurt her. It'll be, that's not why things have ended or anything. But anyway, yeah. And then other ones she would like, but yeah. So it was odd, and all strong stuff she can't handle. But I never quite figured out what that was about. A bit complicated. But yeah, I'll have to. Yeah, I didn't do a lot of research before answering these, but I thought maybe a bit of spontaneity would be good. But I should get on to that thing about the what was it that annoyed me in that smell, and try and get to the root of what that note or what it was. That's what I should do. Yeah, for books, film, and music. Yeah, my taste for music is all over the place, to be honest. So what I will say is, if you're out and you hear something that vibes with you, try and get the name of it. Start typing it into YouTube. Even if you get some of the lyrics, type it in, and then find the video, click like on the video. You probably do that anyway, right? That's one thing you could do. and mustn't let this video go on for too long. And then as for books, film, yeah, I like series. I'm a bit of a Netflix binger. There's an awful lot out there. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of exciting ones. I mean, where to begin? I mean, but if you might not be on. If you're thinking just films, yeah, there's some good films. One of the ones I watched recently, I think it's called The Mother, or even just Mother, and she's this really badass kind of agent and everything, and she has to kind of let the daughter grow up, not knowing who she is. But she ends up having to train the daughter to survive, and and I won't give away too much of the story, but it's very good acting, and you might like that, something like that. The Mother. What else comes to mind? I mean, I won't say the ones that are too obvious. I mean, but yeah, I also did love the Lord of the Rings, but there's a lot of kind of like action ones. There's also a lot of British ones, like ones to do with the Crown and King George. A bit of Bridgerton. I actually liked Bridgerton, to be honest. But yeah, to be honest. Yeah, I suppose if I had a bit more time, more would come to my mind, but that's something for you to go on anyway. Yeah, and it depends kind of on the genre as well. Lots of people do have varying tastes of what they like. Right, and then for books, yeah, you see, I like, I don't read an awful lot, and the genres I would go for, I want something that keeps me engaged, basically. If it's engaging, I'll read it. I don't really gravitate towards things like romance novels, or, I mean, something with action is what I like. Someone needs to be trained up to do a job, and that kind of thing. And I like going through Waterstones and having a look at what's there, But Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky is one that I'm going through at the moment, and it is good. It's his masterpiece. A lot of people like that book. And okay, let me think. I do hope I haven't missed anybody, so we're just having a quick check there. Yeah. Okay, I think we've kind of... Oh, here we go. A guy called What's That Smell has asked, are there any fragrances that you smell everywhere? Has your nose improved since you first got into fragrances? And your least favorite fragrances? Okay, so are there any fragrances that you smell everywhere? No. In fact, I don't smell fragrances on men pretty much at all. I smell them on women all the time, but it's not often you get men wearing cologne. And being honest, like men that I know around here, in my circle around here, that I don't smell fragrance. Oh, there is one guy, but he'll sometimes have a fragrance on. Yeah. What was it? One of them had one called Valentino. Yeah, and the ones that I smell around women, they're a bit hard for me to pinpoint, because fruity, floral, very floral kind of things that you get off them usually. And are there any, has your nose improved since you first got into fragrances? Yeah, I would say it has, but not to a huge degree. I think it definitely, that's something that comes over time, right? And I'll now be a bit quicker in realizing what I like. So if I have two fragrances, completely different brands, yeah, it's probably this one I like more, kind of thing, So in the beginning, I would have been like, oh, that's good, but that's good too. And usually, I think my favorite brand would be Armani. I think they do some of the best fragrances. I mean, if I had money, it might be Creed, because they are pretty much top dogs. But Armani does beautiful stuff. And I also love Versace. Versace Eros was a great fragrance. Stronger with You Intensely, though, by Armani. Was it Profumo, Acqua di Gio Profumo, or Acqua di Gio? That line is beautiful as well. I really liked the Armani fragrances. Yeah, and what's my least favorite fragrance? Well, yeah, I mean, I've come to the end of that bottle of Pure XS. That wasn't the best fragrance. I think Boss, I was a bit disappointed with Boss Bottled Infinite. I did a video on it, and then when I kind of came back to it, and I was thinking that there's not enough punch in that fragrance. It wasn't unpleasant there, and I thought, what's with that? How did they pull that off and charge me all this money? And I did do, I think, a bit of a positive review, but I didn't think I blew it out of the water with praise either. But now, if I had it now, I'd be like, no, this just doesn't do it for me. Like, and then there's some other ones. You see, there's another fragrance, but I wouldn't want to say something against it because I think a lot of people really like it. But it was it by it's a woody one. It's not Varvatos. John Varvatos was nice actually. Yes, it was Tom. There was a Tom Ford one, and I think it was Black Orchid. Apparently that's quite hyped up, and when I smelled it, I didn't take to it for some reason. But I wouldn't call it my least favourite. I'm not sure what is my least favourite there. I've mentioned a few that I'm not too keen on. And I think also the more I use the other Invictus by Paco Rabanne, just that initial hit was like, and then it would kind of grow on me. I'd be like, actually, but it's just not one that I'm going to buy again either. Okay, guys, I've kept you for a long time here. Sorry about that. I hope you maybe paused the video in between. But thanks for asking these awesome questions, and it was a bit all over the place, this video, but lots of different questions, and I think I went on a bit too much about all this, the writing and everything, but that's kind of my hobby at the moment. That's kind of a big thing I'm into, so there you go. Thanks again for joining me for another video, and I don't know, maybe you can give me some suggestions or something in the future for other content, but yeah, as I said, this is the kind of channel that kind of comes and goes, So, as always, ladies and gentlemen, march forward, smelling good.